What's going on there, buddy? This is Give Me That Change TV. I'm getting on here quick tonight. I know my video is up really late this week, but I want to get my picks up for Week 7. I do apologize as this is coming out Friday night. Normally I get it out on Monday. But anyways, let's get into the first game of the week. And we got San Diego Chargers at the New York Jets. New York Jets are coming off a win over Miami, a win that they shouldn't have got. San Diego Chargers are going to be coming into New York Jet territory, wanting to throw the ball and run the ball heavily on this defense. It's going to come down to the quarterback play here and him getting out and running out of the pocket so they can get the wide receivers open so they can make some big plays down the field. I expect Vincent Jackson to get some big yards as well as Floyd. Running back's going to do well. I'm taking San Diego Chargers on the win here by 10 or less. Upset alert in my opinion. So get that on your watch list here. I think the Jets are going to lose the game because of key things with Sanchez again, as I've said in weeks before, that he needs to get his passer rating over 70. Not to mention he's stressing right now with the fact that the offensive coordinator over there, I don't know what he's doing, but he's not running the ball enough for this Jets offense to really get it going. So next up we got the Chicago Bears, the Tampa Bay Bucs. Tampa Bay Bucs got a nice win over the Saints this past week. I called that upset alert. Not to mention they showed some signs that they really can run the ball heavily, and I think that's something they're going to do this week against the Chicago Bears, as they're going to want to get earnest in this game as much as possible and run the ball heavily up the middle on the Chicago Bears. The Bears got the win over the Minnesota Vikings last week, even though Adrian Peterson did run the ball very well on them. But the fact of the matter was that the Vikings team was just horrible other than that, so they couldn't really come back and get the win. So I think that this game is going to be a little harder for the Chicago Bears, and if they make any mental errors on the offensive stretch, then they're going to lose the game here because the Tampa Bay Bucs are going to return on the defense when it comes to that. So I'm going to take the Chicago Bears on a win, but by less than 7. Next up, we got the Seattle Seahawks against Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns took a loss to the Ravens. Not the Ravens. Sorry, Raiders. The Raiders this past week. The Seattle Seahawks, they sat it out and were resting up. They're going to be playing against Cleveland at Cleveland Stadium. Cleveland's going to be running the ball well against them, and I think their quarterback play is what's going to help them get the win. Seahawks are just looking sad right now. Plus, they got rid of a lot of their wide receivers. Their defense is sorry right now. Don't count them out though. I would take Seattle by 7 or more. Next up, we have Atlanta against Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions are coming off a big-time loss this week to the 49ers as they couldn't stop the run, and that was something that I've always liked about the Lions, was their defensive front was playing so well against big running teams and stopping the run because of their big guys up there. I think that's something that Atlanta Falcons are going to want to look into doing this week, and that's running the ball heavily or trying to get some type of a block down there where they can bust open for a 50-yard run like Frank Gore did, I think, once or twice in that game where the 49ers won. But ultimately here, don't count out the Lions. The Lions defense is real solid, as I've talked in past weeks, as well as their offense is one of the best in the NFL. They got really solid wide receivers, and the tight ends are flying all the time. So I'm going to be taking Detroit on this by 10 or less because the home field advantage, and I feel like Atlanta is going to make mental errors on the offense and fumble the ball. Next up, we have the Houston Texans against the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans, of who sat out this week, are all well rested, and they're going to be home playing against the Houston Texans, who are going to hopefully have back their best wide receiver down there, as well as they do have another guy they picked up. So they got a full stacked offensive crew now. I think the Houston defense is going to step it up this week and play really hard against the run. They got some really good guys on the line there. They took a loss to the Ravens this past week, but it wasn't as bad as a lot of people expected it to be. The Houston Texans are a really good team. They're sound all around. So I'm going to take the Houston Texans on the win here by 7 or more. Next up, we have the Washington Redskins, the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers, who barely took a loss to the Atlanta Falcons this week. They really show that they're a team that can't be counted out of any game, as they've matched with some of the best teams in the NFL this year. Washington Redskins, they took a loss, a pretty big loss to the Eagles, which is surprising, but um, I think the Carolina Panthers have the advantage here with the fact that they're home. They're not traveling. They have a quarterback that's elusive, just like Michael Vick. Michael Vick is what basically ripped up the Washington Redskins this past week, and the Carolina Panthers also have a pretty solid running game as well as wide receivers. The defense is not as stacked as the Washington Redskins, but I think that Cam Newton is going to be able to manipulate that with his feet and his elusiveness on the ground. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos against the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, who took a loss to the Jets this week and really didn't show me much, as I don't even think they got a touchdown. They actually got 2 field goals, so they played pretty pathetic. But the Denver Broncos have been pretty pathetic in past weeks as well. I think if the Denver Broncos start Tim Tebow this week, then it will be their best chances of getting a couple more wins under their belts this season. I got the Denver Broncos taking a loss this week, but I wouldn't count them out. I think they have a solid defense still, but the Miami Dolphins really got to start to step it up here. They're looking pretty pitiful when it comes to the running game right now, and I feel like they only have one wide receiver who's really making all the big time plays in Marshall, and everyone knows he's got 3 personalities. So depending on how he's feeling that game, if he wants to play or not, then he might not be involved in the offense at all. So I think that this week I would take the Miami Dolphins on the win here, but I wouldn't count the Denver Broncos by losing by too much. The next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Arizona Cardinals. The 2 of these have played in the Super Bowl the past couple of years ago, and it's not going to be the same. The Arizona Cardinals cannot compete with the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Pittsburgh Steelers are really dominating right now. They have their run game finally established this past week, after I've been saying weeks previously that they needed to get that running game going. That was something that really basically allowed for them to do what they did this past week against the Jags. They need to keep that running game established, and if they run the ball like they did last week against the Arizona Cardinals this week, there's no questions about it. They're gonna get the win. Not to mention Ben Roethlisberger's been hitting his big wide receivers quite well, and they also have a very impressive defense that some weeks are super great and others just average defense, but I count them as getting the win this week by 10 or more points. Next up, we have the KC Chiefs against the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders, of who just picked up Carson Palmer, a quarterback that I've always loved, who's been on the Bengals for years, and who really carried them for a while, but they never really got to the potential that they were capable of because of the other players that were surrounding him. I think that Carson Palmer is going to do quite well in this offense, and I expect him and the Oakland Raiders to get a win over the KC Chiefs this week by 10 or more. The Oakland Raiders running offense is still one of the best in the NFL. Their defense is quite solid at times, and they can compete with anybody on the field. I think that Carson Palmer is going to have a breakout game with 250-plus yards, and it's going to show that the Oakland Raiders can actually have an offense passing as well. The KC Chiefs, if they wanted to get this win, they'd really have to shut down totally the total offense of the Raiders, which is going to be pretty hard right now, as they've been pretty banged up this season. And the KC Chiefs offensively are pretty banged up as well, so I'm counting them out. But I would take the Oakland Raiders by 10 or less. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers against the Minnesota Vikings, and this is always a rivalry, as they're in the same division every single year. It's always a great game to watch. I think it's not going to be that great of a game to watch this year, as the Minnesota Vikings absolutely are not comparable as their old team. They're just not as good as they used to be. The Green Bay Packers are the best team in the NFL right now, no questions about it. They're still flying on every single aspect of the game, offensively, defensively, quarterback play, everything. They're wonderful, and I think they're going to take this win by 20 plus points because the Minnesota Vikings defense is struggling right now, and Adrian Peterson's not going to be able to really do much this week against the stacked D of the Green Bay Packers. Next up, we have the St. Louis Rams against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys, who took a loss, this past week to the New England Patriots, and the St. Louis Rams, who took a loss to the Packers. The St. Louis Rams are going to take I would take them on a loss here by 15 or more points to Dallas Cowboys, as Dallas Cowboys are home. Dallas Cowboys offense is going to start to want to pass the ball heavily on this team, as well as the St. Louis Rams offense and defense right now. The quarterback is, I think he missed a couple practices this week. Jackson can't carry the team anymore, and the facts are that the St. Louis Rams are just struggling right now. And I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys by 15 or more points here. Next up, we have the Indianapolis Colts against the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints took a loss this week to the Tampa Bay Bucs. They're going to want a little redemption here. They're going to be home, so they're going to get the win here over the Indianapolis Colts, but I wouldn't count the Indianapolis Colts out. Their defense is really solid. If they can get the defensive ends blitzing and get the linebacker up the middle every once in a while, the pressure on Drew Brees, there might be the opportunity for a pick or so, but it's going to be tough for them to really manhandle or keep up with the offense of the Saints, as right now they are missing Peyton Manning, their best quarterback. But I wouldn't count the Indianapolis Colts out. I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints here by 10 or more. The final game of the week, we got the Baltimore Ravens at the Jacksonville Jags. Baltimore Ravens, who had a really nice win over the Texans this past week, and the Jacksonville Jags. They took a loss to the Steelers, but the Ravens, I can't remember exactly over the past couple of years of them playing on Mondays, but I'm pretty sure they suck on Mondays, if I can remember correctly. The Baltimore Ravens defense is much stronger than the Jacksonville Jags. The Jacksonville Jags offenses have been doing quite well with the new McCone, or whatever his name is, quarterback that they've stuck in there. And I think he's been able to do quite well this season, but they're on the back burner this season as a team as a whole. Baltimore Ravens have a stacked defense, a very talented old defense they've had a lot of players that have been there for years that just can basically single-handedly beat this team. The Jacksonville Jags are kind of weak right now, but not to mention the Baltimore Ravens also have a very good running back, quarterback, and wide receivers that are going to be able to play very explosive, and I expect the Baltimore Ravens to get a big-time win here by 15 or more points and show that they are still one of the best teams in the NFL, and they're in the hunt for the playoffs this time big. Alright, those are my picks for the week. Enjoy. Leave some comments and hit the subscribe button. I'll talk to you guys later. See you. Bye-bye.